So family, what's good with you? It's your boy 2A in LA, and as always fam, anything I say in this episode, prior episodes, and future episodes is just my personal opinion. Don't take it as fact, don't take it as law. Always do your own homework and come up with your own conclusions. Right about now fam, I should go ahead and tap that like button for your boy. If you're new to the channel, I want to say welcome. Come on in. You can join the congregation by smashing that subscribe button and requesting all post notifications. And if you are an existing supporter of this channel, fam, I appreciate you more than you can possibly imagine. You are the reason this channel is anything. Alright fam, let's get into it. So the title of this video is what is a good shooter and are you one, right? This conversation comes from really a series of conversations that I've had over the past several weeks. It comes from a lot of the comments that I get throughout the course of the year. It comes from me watching content from other people. And I think that, I think this is something that we need to talk through, something that we need to explore. I think there's a lot of people out there thinking they're really good shooters and they're not. I think there's people out there who think they suck and they're really better than what they think they are. And then there's people who really are really good shooters. So one of the things that I've discovered in life, fam, is that everything is relative, right? No matter what the topic is, it is interdependent upon where you're standing and your viewpoint at any given moment in time, right? I don't care what it is. If you're talking about you're rich, right? Okay, like think about like Jay-Z, for instance, who's a billionaire, right? Jay-Z could think that he's rich, but relative to Elon Musk, not so much, right? Relative to me, uber rich, right? And so I think, and it doesn't matter what it is, you think you're very attractive, always somebody more attractive than you, always somebody less attractive than you, right? You think your gun collection is the bomb, always somebody who's got a better gun collection than you, always somebody who's got a worse gun collection than you, right? So it all depends on the context in which we are speaking and in relation to what, right? And so, like I said, this thought process really comes from a variety of videos and comments that I have been dealing with. And so, are you a good shooter? That's the question that we're trying. What is a good shooter and are you a good shooter? So, let's take it from the context of everybody. Let's limit the conversation to the United States as a whole, right? I'll put up some demographics while I'm talking about this that kind of speak to the population of the United States as a whole, right? And then we can talk about the number of gun owners in the United States, right? Then if you think about it from the context of, if you consider the people who don't even own a gun, right? If you consider the people who own guns but really never shoot them, then if you're the kind of person who pulls your gun out and you shoot once every 3 or 4 months, you go to a static range and you can put bullets on paper, rounds on paper from 5 yards, 10 yards, consistently, relative to the masses, you're probably a good shooter, right? Now, if that's you, and you compare yourself to somebody who goes to the range multiple times a month, is putting, over the course of the year, is putting shooting 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 rounds on their firearms, and they can get all A zones from 5, 10, 15, 20 yards. To them, you may not be a good shooter. Relative to them, you may not be a good shooter. Maybe you're just an average shooter, right? And if you're one of those people that I'm talking about that go to the static range and, put 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 rounds downrange every single year and can consistently hit A zones, you may be puffing your chest out right now. But let's talk about the person who goes to not only indoor ranges but outdoor ranges, and they're putting 10, 15,000 rounds out there. And not only that, they're practicing shooting on the move a little bit. And they're practicing more difficult targets, and they're practicing transitions and things like that, and weapon manipulations a lot more, and they're dry firing. Okay, relative to that person, are you a good shooter? Maybe not. Maybe not, right? And if you're one of those people that I just described, and I kind of put myself in that category, before you start puffing your chest out, what about people who are being formally and tactically, who have formal and tactical training, right? Who do this for a living, who have operated at very high levels and have seen, active duty and has been deployed, either in law enforcement or the military, and continue to put thousands and thousands of rounds. And not only are they doing that, they're doing tactical maneuvers and CQB and performing at very, very high levels of accuracy. If you're me compared to them, are you a good shooter? Probably not. Probably not, right? Okay, now, if you're one of those guys and you compare yourself to a high-level competition shooter, master level, grandmaster level, USPSA, right? You guys, and they're dry firing 30 minutes to an hour every single day. They're doing thousands of rounds, anywhere between, let's say, 3 to 10,000 rounds a month, right? Are you a good shooter relative to that? Maybe not. Maybe not. And if you're one of those people, before you start sticking your chest out, you may be great at actually shooting, but if you have no tactical training and things like that, people who are more tactically and formally trained might be looking at you like, yeah, your gun control is great, but in the grand scheme of everything that shooting is, you ain't so hot. Right? So I wanted to have this conversation, fam, because I think there is too much stuff out there about who is good and who is not. So, and I've been mulling this over in my head now for quite some time. And I think what I would like to say is that the question shouldn't be, are you a good shooter? I think it's too vague, it's too broad, it is too ill-defined. I think the question really is, are you a good shooter for what you are trying to accomplish? I think that's the real question. Okay, so let's take this back. If you are somebody who has no interest in carrying a gun for a living, you are not going to put yourself in situations where it is your job to knock down doors and kill bad guys for a living. And so you're not trying to be tactically trained. You have no interest in competition shooting in IDPA or USPSA. You simply want to be in a position where if somebody breaks into your house at night in your home and you want to be able to load a firearm and shoot a firearm and put bullets on target, then if you're the kind of person that's getting out once a month or once every couple of months and you're putting a few hundred rounds through your primary self-defense weapon, then you're probably, and you can do that, and you can consistently put rounds on paper, then you're probably good enough for what you are trying to accomplish, right? And if that's all you're trying to accomplish, you should feel comfortable in that, and you should be okay with that. And people who do more than you should not look down on you like you are less than because your goals are not their goals, right? If you are somebody who takes it a step further and you conceal carry on a daily basis, right? And for you, it's also just about self-defense, but you need to be a little bit more prepared because you're carrying outside of your home. Likely, maybe you're engaging in a little bit more potentially dynamic situations given, unfamiliarity with where you are and with where you might be at the time, where you have to factor in other people being around you and being at greater risk than just if you're in your house. Then you probably need to train at a higher level than the person who just has a home defense gun, right? And so maybe you're getting out to the range once a month. Maybe you're putting, 500 to 1,000 rounds once a month, and you're relatively accurate with whatever you're using for home defense and with whatever you're using for carry. You can put rounds consistently in an A zone. Maybe that's good enough for what you are trying to accomplish, and you should feel good about that, and you should not let people whose goals are not your goals get you off your square. You should not be sitting around and letting them critique you and put you down because you are not training at the level that they're training because your goals are not their goals, right? And similarly, if you are somebody who is doing this for a living, whether it's law enforcement or armed services, depending on what your role is in those capacities, if you have gotten formal training, your fundamentals are dialed in, and you have the ability and the skill and the knowledge and the training to be able to operate, to do what you need to do for your job, you should feel good about where you are, and you should not let other people talk you off of your square. And lastly, if you are a competition shooter and your goal is to compete at a high level, then to me, you are the easiest to judge where you are, because specifically if you're in like USPSA, you'll know whether I'm a C class, B class, A. You'll understand where you are relative to where you want to be. But wherever you are, you should be okay with that. And I think these things are not static, right? We all start somewhere. We all remember our very first time going to a range and how that felt. And we can appreciate the distance between where we were then to where we are now. And where we are now, hopefully, is not where we're trying to be if we want to get better. So Look, fam, I see an awful lot of shaming out there in the community. People who shoot competitions are crap on people who don't. I get more. You should get training and look. Don't let people blow up your spot. You need to be good enough for your goals. Now, if you're one of these people who have a gun for home defense, but you have it sitting in a drawer and you haven't touched it for years and you never shoot, you're tripping a little bit, because you at least need to be good enough for the reason why you bought the gun, right? You need to make sure that gun stays oiled and is operational and you're comfortable enough to handle it, right? And so if that's your goal and you're not shooting at all, step up your game a little bit. Work on it. I'm not shaming you at all. I'm just saying, if your stated goal is to have the gun for home defense, then you should be proficient enough to use it in that capacity. And if you're one of these people who are out here carrying a gun every day, got a gun on you, that's great. But if you never shoot and you can't shoot accurately, and you don't have a smooth draw stroke and things of that nature, okay, well then you need to get better. You need to be good enough to be able to do what your purpose in doing it is. And this is no shame. I'm just trying to encourage you to step up your game a little bit, again, to be good enough for what your goal is. And if you're a competition shooter and your goal is to get to A level or master level or grandmaster level, to become a grandmaster one day, then that's great. But just know to compete at that level, you need to be putting in hours and hours and hours of dry fire training and live training and thinking and strategic planning and all of that goes into being a competition shooter. I guess that leads me to where I am. My stated purpose has always been primarily self-defense. And whether that is in the home or whether that's on a concealed carry basis, I want to be accurate and proficient with my firearm, and I try to train to that standard. Now, I do want to get into competitions, not necessarily so I can rise up the ranks, but I do want to do more tactical training. And in 2025, I've got a lot of that on my calendar. And so I'm going to be doing I'm going to do tactical training. I'm going to be doing competition and advanced pistol and carbine training. I'm going to do all of that. I'm going to start competing a little bit. Not necessarily to try to work my way up to be a high level competition shooter, but more so those skills that I develop will help me in my task of being a better self-defense minded and concealed carry minded individual. So I can be an excellent shooter in that realm based on my stated purpose and goal. I feel like I'm a good shooter right now today based on my stated goal, right? Am I a good shooter compared to a competition shooter? No, not at all. Not at all. My fundamentals are not dialed in solid enough. I don't train enough in that regard. And so no. But based on my stated purpose and goals, I think I'm a good shooter. But I'd like to be excellent. And I think by participating in some of these other disciplines and getting higher levels of training, I can be an excellent shooter for my stated purpose and goal. So just think about that, you guys. Just think about that. When you're asking yourself, are you a good shooter? What is your stated purpose and goal relative to firearms? And that should be your measurement, not other people's viewpoint of where they think you should be, or other people's viewpoint based on what their goals are. They think their goals should be your goals. No, your goals should be your goals, and you should try to become as good as you need to be to accomplish your goals. So that's what I think a good shooter is, and you need to decide for yourself if you are a good shooter. All right, that's it for this episode, fam. Until next time, as always, take care of one another and peace.